allergies are so bad today. Whew, bad allergies. Bad allergies. All right, hey everybody, welcome to the Coding Zoo. If this is your first time joining, my name is Shane. This is the Coding Zoo HTML Building Blocks series. In today's lesson, we're going to cover how to create form elements that input numbers or a range of numbers. These are new elements with HTML5, pretty neat stuff. If you've never seen them before, I recommend that you stick around. We're going to jump right in. Let's go ahead. Okay, so let's jump in. So on my desktop, I have an index.html file. I've got some basic CSS just for spacing, nothing major there. And I have this little script tag. Don't worry about that. It's just something that allows me to automatically display the input value on the screen as we input it. So it actually reads from an input range that I'm fixing to. Is that a word? Fixing to. That's a southern word. I'm fixing to. So it automatically reads an element that I'm fixing to put on the page, and it actually puts the value of that element in this span. So if you want to copy that and play with that, feel free to stop the video and do that. But the main subject for this video is the input type of number and the input type of range. Let's jump in and try the input type of number. I'm going to cut and paste these elements to save a little time. The code can be downloaded from our website, thecodingzoo.com. We usually have the code out there within a couple of weeks of publishing the video. You also, of course, can stop the video and code as I code. All right, let's go ahead and let's add let me show you what I have on the page. So let's refresh just to make, there we go. So I've got this number field set. I'm going to show you two implementations, smaller increments, larger increments. Let's go ahead and add the first one. Okay, so I've added this input element and I've set the type to number. Number is the new type. It's new to HTML5. I've called it decimal dash increment or INC, and I've added the ID and the name. If you're not familiar, ID can be used by JavaScript to actually find this element or by CSS. The name is what is actually sent to the server. So you definitely want to include both of these. Now I've added a placeholder attribute. Hopefully you're familiar with that. If not, it basically just puts a little gray text in your input box for the user, so you can tell the user, information about the text box, kind of like suggestion or hey, this is for numbers, something like that. And I've added this attribute I thought is pretty cool. It's called step. So step allows you to input a number in certain steps. I'll show you how that works. Let's click save. Now step isn't required. You can leave it off. Let's click refresh. There we go. So the placeholder was 1/10 increments. That's this little gray text here. And the step made it have these little up and down arrows. Now if I click on it, it's going to step a certain direction, and it's going to step however I told it to step, which in this case would be in 1/10 increments. So let's try it out. Click down, -1/10, -1/10. Click up, and you'll notice it keeps going up by tenths. Now this doesn't limit what you can put in the blocks. You can put in 5. That works fine. Click up, and it'll just increment by 1/10. So pretty neat. Pretty neat stuff. So doesn't limit you. Let's look at another example. Okay, so I've added another input element and I've set the type to number. I've called the ID tens, the name tens. Now I put a min and a max. So as I mentioned before, the step doesn't actually limit what you can put in. It just sets, what increment it steps when you click the up or down triangle. This attribute min sets the minimum amount allowed, and max sets the maximum amount allowed. And you have the step of 10. So instead of 1/10, I'm stepping by tens. Let's save it, take a look at it. Click refresh, and you'll notice it now will step by tens. Click down by tens. So it has a minimum amount of 10, so it will not let you put anything, it will not let you step down less than 10. I wonder if I can type it in. I can type it in. Now it will let me type it in, but I bet if you try to submit this form element, it will give you an error. It won't let you submit it. Let's test that out. Here, let me add a input button. So if you're not familiar, a submit button will automatically submit a form for you. This input type equals submit creates a submit button. Save it, refresh. Now, so we saw it would do increments of 10. It won't go less than 10 using the increments. But it'll let me type something in less than 10. What happens if I submit? Oh, must be greater than 10. So you can actually type a value in that's less than the min or greater than the max, but the form won't let you submit it because you've added that min and that max. And the increment is kind of a hint to, users, well, it should be higher than 10. What if I wanted to do like, and less than the max, but what if I wanted to do like, say 77? Now that's not an increment of 10. So it will not let me enter it. So increment is another way of putting restrictions on what you can enter. And I say increment, but it's really called step. So step equals to 10 actually makes sure that the user implements steps of 10. And it actually gives you an error if it's not a step of 10. How about 770? Well, that actually submitted. So what was my max? Well, my max was 1,000. So that makes sense. How about if I do 1110? And it won't let me because the max is 1,000. So pretty simple, pretty neat stuff. Now, here's something else that's pretty neat. What if I wanted to add some suggested values? So I'm going to cut and paste some more data here. I'm going to add what's called a data list, and that is also new with HTML5. So it's an element called data list. It has an ID, and then it has options like in a select box. So option with the attribute of value equal 10, option with the value of 20, and I have a data list. So I'm going to take this name, and I'm going to put it on this input element list equals suggestion list. So I have an attribute called list. Again, that's new with HTML5. I'm going to click save, click refresh, and let's click on it. Oh, there's another arrow there. Let's click down, and there are my suggestions. Pretty neat stuff. That is the input type of number and some of the more popular attributes that are used with that. Very cool. Let's jump down to input range. Okay, let me copy this range element over. So I have input and I have a type of range. And I gave it an ID, and we have this list of tick marks. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Let me go ahead and remove it. Pretty much like the other list we saw a few minutes ago. And I'm going to, a few minutes ago, that we just saw a few seconds ago. All right, I'm going to click refresh, and there's my range. So very similar to the input number boxes, but instead of an input box, you have a slider. Pretty neat, right? I could slide all the way across and have different numbers. So pretty neat there. Now, it's not supported by all browsers. This definitely is supported in Chrome. If you are not using Chrome, I recommend you try it out. It's made by Google. It's a great browser. So this allows you to input a number range. Now you see this number. This is that JavaScript that I was telling you about that I put there. I put a span here, and that JavaScript, every time that this element changes, it updates that span. So that's not built into the range element. That's a little extra that I added so you could see the values changing. Okay, let's go back to here. Now I'm going to put a data list called tick marks. I've got data list ID equals tick marks, and I've got option values 0 through 100. Go down to my range here, and I'm going to set, again, list equals ticks, and I'm going to save this. Let's go back, click refresh, and that did not work. Go back to my code here. Do I have a bug? I do. I did not put the name correctly. I put list equals ticks. It's tick marks. Save it, click refresh, and there we go. There are my tick marks, and I can move from each one of them. Look at there. Now notice it won't let me, yeah, there it goes. It'll let me slide in the middle there. Okay, cool. All right. So each of those different tick marks are in my list there. Pretty neat, right? Pretty neat stuff. Very cool. So that is our element called input range. I hope you like that. Again, that's new with HTML5. Pretty neat stuff. That's it for today's lesson. Input type equal to number, input type equal to range. New with HTML5. If you have any questions, leave me a message below. If this is the first time you've seen one of our videos and you liked it, click that like button. Also click subscribe and click the alert bell so you can know when our upcoming videos are coming. So, hey, thanks for joining us. Our goal with Coding Zoo is to help others learn how to program. I hope to see you again in the future. Hope you have a great week. See you next time. Bye.